right, welcome back to Realcomm Live. Excited to be here with my guest today. I'm Jesse Carrillo, formerly a Chief Information Officer with Heinz, based out of Houston, now doing advisory services. So excited to be here with two fantastic guests here. So I'm going to let them introduce yourselves. We'll start with Sandy.
Sure, Sandy Jacolow, Chief Technology Officer over at Empire State Realty Trust in New York.
Wonderful. Kapil.
Hi, Kapil Lahoti, CD2 at CBRE.
Awesome. Well, welcome. Well, we had a chance to see Kapil yesterday at the pre-con events on innovation. So he gave us some really cool things they're working on, and part of that I think is today's topic is how do you the advantage of working with the C-suite that actually gets it. Jim talked about this earlier in the general session about there's a lot of projects that start grassroots, but when you have the top really supporting your projects, it just seems to accelerate the digital transformation. So maybe you can talk first about when you first came into this role, was that the case, or did you have to develop some relationships to get them to kind of get it? And then I'll say the same thing to Sandy as well, if you can speak to that.
Yeah, actually my journey was interesting. I joined commercial real estate 3 years ago, and what I found very interesting about CBRE is out of the 9 rounds of interview, 8 were with business execs.
Yeah, nice.
So that to me told me they got it.
Yeah.
Right, so that itself was a great starting point. But I do feel that at the beginning they knew that technology is important, but now not how important it is and how much it can transform the industry. So that's the journey. I think we went together and said, had to convince them and also take everyone along and talk about how we can transform the industry with technology and not just enable the business with technology. So that I think was a leap of faith, and it went very well, I would say. Okay. I think they get it quite well now.
Okay, so walking in, you had the opportunity to really kind of already have that base foundation of them getting it, them understanding the value of the technology, and so now you're just kind of fostering that culture that they've already had there already.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Awesome. And you, Sandy?
Yeah, I was fortunate. I walked into a situation where the C-suite got it. ESRT is known for our sustainability initiatives, and technology is so important at driving that. So that really has been a big driver, particularly in the prop tech OT space. And the other place where we really have C-suite support is cybersecurity. Right. Mm-hmm. Understanding that cyber is everybody's responsibility. So when you have those, it really changes the corporate mentality and the mindset.
Okay. And then speaking about cybersecurity, because again, we had a pre-con session yesterday. It was a fantastic session around cybersecurity. That was one of the main topics, along with, of course, AI happening here. And so, how are they thinking about cybersecurity from an AI perspective? They get it from a cybersecurity, but sometimes, like when I was doing more with AI and cybersecurity in my previous roles, we were concerned that the cybersecurity governance compliance might slow down some of that innovation, some of that AI. How are you kind of handling that Empire, that dynamic of cybersecurity plus innovation? Yeah,
we know that we have to be cautious. Whether you're a publicly traded company or a private company, what most people don't focus on is the privacy side of the data. And we have an internal process where every new piece of software, every new piece of hardware has to go through a cyber and privacy review, which includes our legal department, who's a great partner with us, because we know it only takes one mistake and your data can be out there in the public domain, which could hurt your brand, your reputation. So it is a critical part of the equation.
Okay. And I mean, it's great having that support of let's be safe, but also let's make sure we're moving forward. And it sounds like at CBRE, you guys are in the same situation. Anything different to add to that, or?
During our SDLC also, we have a gate specifically to make sure that we're taking both data privacy and cyber into account. And then we work very closely with the legal and compliance on all matters of data residency, data privacy, as well as any questions we have around what can be used or not used within the AI models.
Okay, so you're able to kind of decide which language models, which platforms you want to bring in from an IA perspective, and make sure they go through their CISOs and their vetting process from a cyber perspective. And,
yes.
And you guys have kind of got a good model that's working, and your C-suite kind of supports that and knows that you're moving at a speed that's comfortable for your company.
Yeah. Okay. Jesse, let me add one thing. If the AI has any implication to the financial statements, it has to go through an audit lens review as well,
right.
because that's such an important component.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's so easy to just put stuff out there by accident, and like I said, it's, regardless of whether you're private or public, definitely in public, you're definitely more concerned about that. So again, when I was CIO, I had the fortune of having a C-suite that got it, but also had one that was struggle with it. But some of the challenges I had maybe with the C-suite that got it was that they were, well educated, well read around some of the technologies that were out there. They would meet with some of their peers and they would talk about what the other companies are doing. Yeah. If you can speak to it, if you want to speak to it, what were some of the challenges of maybe, when they get it and they think they've got the answer and maybe it doesn't quite jive with what you think is the strategy or today, or maybe your team is not quite ready. So how do you deal with the situation where the C-suite might get it and they're pushing you a certain direction, but maybe you're not quite there yet based on your strategy? So maybe I'll start with you if you're willing to answer that kind of question.
I think the discussion has to happen at the outcomes level, right? You cannot discuss it at the technology level because, as you said, they might have heard about some good technology somewhere else and they'll bring it to you and say, why don't you use this? So that's where, as the technology leader or the digital leader rather, you have to change the conversation to what do you want to achieve, and leave it to us. We are the experts. We'll tell you how to reach there, because as you said, there are some cyber concerns. There are some better economical ways to reach the same outcome. So changing the conversation to outcome always helps, I feel. And also, if I go back a little bit to your question earlier about the advantage of having a C-suite who gets it, is very important because technology is very difficult to deliver. I mean, statistics show that technology projects fail more than they succeed, right? So you need a C-suite who understands that you're taking a risk, and sometimes the projects might fail, but the upside is huge. It's worth the risk you're taking. So in that context, when they bring in such a lot of ideas and say, do this, do that, you have to remind them that delivering technology...
Some of them will fail,
Some of them will fail, so trust us that we know how to deliver. Let's focus on the outcomes.
Oh, that's wonderful. Appreciate you. Sandy?
And I will add to that, if you're going to fail, you have to fail fast. You can't throw human resources or capital resources after something that is just not going to work. A lot of times they will not understand the foundational work that goes into implementing a project or a product. And we as managers have to go through what I'll call good project management fundamentals. Business requirements, what's the ultimate measures of success, what are the prereqs that we have to do to get there, and set the proper time expectations, because they may just look at something and say, oh, you can just snap your fingers and get there. And it's our job to present that in a very cogent, well-articulated fashion, both at an executive level and down to the detail, and have a project plan. Do that extra work so that they can understand it, because if you provide them with all the data, you can have that intelligent conversation with them, and it's not emotional anymore. It's just more based on mathematics and raw data.
Yep. No, I mean, I totally agree. From a project management perspective, change management, having a good process and good team in place, huge value. We only got about a minute left, but maybe, it's all about networking relationships, in conferences like Realcomm. Just let me know, what do you do with your C-suite? How often do you meet? How often do you provide updates? It'd be great to kind of understand how you're continuing to foster those relationships. So maybe start with you. What's your cadence with your C-suite? Make sure that they stay connected to continue to get it.
Yeah, it's very regular either through steercos or direct meetings.
Okay.
And CBRE is very complex and a worldwide organization. So we have multiple people involved in the C-suite. So it's not as simple as two people we have to meet daily, right? So the intersection points have to be very, very carefully managed, if you will, in the sense that you don't have the luxury to meet everyone every day, right? So the moment you meet, you have to be well prepared, and you have to get to the point, as well as provide the right evidence of why you want to do certain things, or what are things you have done, and that's what outcomes they're driving, right? So you have to be very precise with the engagement model over there.
Perfect. Tight and concise.
Especially in such a
large organization.
Such a large organization, because the time per C-suite executive is very short. Right. The window is very short.
Well, I appreciate it.
For us, it's the C-suite and the management committee, and I have regular meetings with our COO. We meet with the management committee, but it's very important. Get out of email, get out of Teams, walk over, have the conversation with somebody, have the dialogue. So we'll have ad hoc meetings where I'll just walk over to somebody and what are we trying to accomplish? Are you aware of this? What's the next step? And that part of the open dialogue, where they know they can just walk over, you can just walk over, really changes it, because if it's too structured, you're going to miss key deliverables, and you almost have to think about that agile, keep it short, keep it simple, and keep it at
relevant.
regular intervals.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, listen, we're out of time, but I really appreciate you being out here. And again, thank you to everyone for listening in and being out here. And please visit our sponsors. We really appreciate you. And we'll see you next year. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Jesse.
you.